Hello, and welcome to our introduction to Produmex Scan. Produmex Scan is a simple, robust system that enables barcode scanning on mobile devices, which in turn create SAP Business One transactions in real time. What happens on the scanner happens in SAP. Produmex Scan creates all inventory-based Business One marketing documents directly from your mobile device. Scan honors SAP bins, units of measure, batch tracking and serial tracking specification at the item level. It offers real-time Business One integration regarding inventory transactions. If you can do it in SAP, you can do it in Scan. Among the SAP documents handled by Scan include the purchasing side, your SAP goods receipt PO, both purchase order based and non-PO based, your goods receipts and goods issues for adjusting inventory if enabled by security on the handheld device, various types of counting documents, as well as inventory direct transfers and inventory transfer requests. On the outbound side, Scan supports picking and packing, which generate the SAP delivery, as well as SAP customer returns. For production, we can use a Scan handheld to issue raw materials to production, to receive finished goods from production, and to return excess raw materials back into inventory. In addition, Scan offers a variety of extra functions that truly empower the handheld user. Among these, the query screens let you check the quantities of an item, quantities of a bin, quantities of a batch. Favorites by user allow each user to have shortcuts to the functions that they use the most often. Non-PO receiving creates a standalone SAP goods receipt PO. Many people will disable that through security. Others will rely on it for receiving excess inventory on an inbound container. Cash and carry is kind of the same concept on the outbound side. Again, this is controlled by security. The handheld could, if you enable it, allow you to deactivate and activate SAP bins. Likewise, the handheld can print bin labels. It can print item labels and item labels that have batch or serial number information on them. Scan's counting options include a real-time option as well as an offline option where the counts can be accumulated on the device and then synced later. And then there's a variety of blind counting options. Advanced features include the ability to define put-away logic, bin replenishment strategies. On the security and auditing side, each device function on the handheld is separately secured on each device user's SAP employee record. There is a Scan-specific mobile device password, so it won't interfere with any of that same user's other passwords. Printers can be assigned to a specific device user if appropriate. And there's a comprehensive mobile device audit trail with all the document creation information. In addition, there are options to either require the scan of the item barcode or allow the manual entry of the item code on the device. Another example of these advanced capabilities is the option to enable or disable Scan's lookup of existing bins and or existing batches. Likewise, you can enable and disable a scan option that forces picking of the batch specified on the SAP pick ticket. Our presentation will include several scenarios. The first scenario is an inbound receipt of a non-tracked item into a non-bin warehouse, followed by the receipt of a batch tracked item into a warehouse that uses SAP bins. Then we'll use the query capabilities to check inventory stock levels for the goods we just received. And then we'll ship those goods out using the picking and packing functions, which in turn will create an SAP delivery in real time. Finally, we'll talk a little bit about options for securing the various mobile device options by user. So we will start by introducing a purchase order. This PO is going to be a very simple document which contains a non-tracked item going into a non-bin tracked warehouse. So let's look at the warehouse. This is warehouse 04, and in warehouse 04, SAP bin locations are not enabled. On the item front, this is a very simple item. This item has no units of measure, so uses the SAP manual method, and it is not managed by batches or serial numbers. Let's step into the role of the handheld user. In this case, we have a user called Sam. He is going to log on to his device. He puts in his user ID and his scan password, and the system shows him the menu options that have been enabled for him through security by the system administrator. Sam can go ahead and do goods receipt purchase orders, purchase receiving that is. He can ship goods out via picking, he can do packing, he can do credits, and he can do bin transfers, and he can process inventory transfer requests. He can also process goods receipts and goods issues in terms of inventory adjustments. And finally, he has the query option we talked about in the introduction. We've just logged into the device, and the truck is just backed up to our dock. The driver comes in with the paperwork, and that paperwork includes a commercial invoice or a bill of lading or a packing list, and that has our purchase order on it. We would go ahead here and we would enter our PO number. The system verifies it can find the PO, and then we'll hit the receive button on the device. Sam has now selected his purchase order, and it jumps directly into the process of scanning inventory. Here it's asking for an item. Typically, if the vendor provides barcodes on their items, then you will go ahead and you will scan that item. Otherwise, you could do what I'm doing and enter those in manually. So here, this was the non-tracked example, so this is going to be very straightforward. I'm going to receive 4 of the first unit, and we can see on our little list of all the PO lines, we've got quantity 4 of an available 20 of our total. Then we can go and scan the second unit that we're receiving. And here maybe we'll receive 5. And so we're not going to receive the third unit, and we're going to receive these lines short. So at that point, we're done. The system now activates this post button. And when we do the post, he's going to automatically generate the SAP goods receipt purchase order. And it tells us the system has generated goods receipt 1333. Back in the office, somebody takes a look at that purchase order, and now they see that the open quantities reflect that first receipt we just did. They want to see more, so of course they go into the SAP relationship map, and they can see not only the purchase order, but the goods receipt that we just did on the scanner. Here, when we drill into the goods receipt PO, it lists the items that were received, the quantities, any additional information it has, which for this item is going to be pretty simple because there's no bins and there's no batches. So let's look at a different PO. Here we have an example that's a little bit more sophisticated. We're bringing the goods into an SAP bin tracked warehouse. So enable bin locations is on for our warehouse 05. The bin locations tab's active. I could go into bin master in SAP and create or edit my bins as I see fit. This item is a different item using batch tracking on every transaction. So anytime I scan him in Produmex scan, we'll have to satisfy the batch entry requirement. In addition, he's got a unit of measure group up here, which gives us each's, cases, and cartons. Next, we'll do another one of our receipts. We're still logged in as the same user, and the next truck backs up to the door. Here, maybe I don't know what my purchase order is, so I can go and I can do a lookup. more likely in this case want to put our purchase order in, reload, and get right to the document we're searching for. Again, the driver's backed into the dock, has brought in our paperwork. We read that PO number off the paperwork and we're good to go. In our receiving process, it's the same as we saw before with a slight difference here with the unit of measure. So here we'll scan our item and we'll indicate that we're receiving 6 cartons. Now, if I wanted to receive this in a different unit of measure, I could click the lookup and I could choose a different unit of measure. But in this case, I'll be quite good with keeping it at the cart. So we scan our item, we'll put in our quantity of 6, and now the system asks us for additional information. It's a bin tracked warehouse and it's a batch tracked item. So let's go ahead and start scanning the batches on the boxes. So the supplier's gone ahead and put barcode labels for the batch or lot number on the case. So we'll put in our batch number and we'll indicate that there's 2 of this batch going into that bin. Now I ran out of room in that bin and I'm going to put 2 units of the same batch into another bin. And now that bin still has some more room, so I can put the last 2 cartons in there. The only difference is the batch number is different. So here now I'm doing our receipt. I've satisfied the quantity, and now the post button becomes enabled. I click the post button, and the system goes about to create the SAP goods receipt PO in real time. Tells us it created 1334, our goods receipt PO. We come back to our purchase order document in SAP, repeat the same process. Here we can see the quantity open has now been reduced by the 6 units just received. Right click, relationship map. We can go into our newly created goods receipt PO and we can see the quantity that was received. Now it gets a little bit more interesting. First, we could look at the batches if we want. And these are the batches that were just scanned on our device. Second, we can look at the bins. And here you can see that there were 3 separate receipts, all into the same warehouse, 2 of them into the same bin, and at various quantities of each. Next, we'll go back to our handheld device, and sometime later, we might want to see about the stock status of those items. We can go ahead and scan or enter the item, and the system will search for that item and show us all the bins where it can find that item. For each one of those bins, it can also show us the serial numbers and batches that exist in that bin. Here are the examples that we just put in today, those 2 numbers. And likewise, we can come up to a different bin, go into serial batch, and we can see the 1 batch that we put into that bin. This shows the power that Produmex Scan is putting on the handheld, where a material handler can gain access to any amount of information that's in SAP about inventory. They can access that information on their handheld. Next, we're going to go and look at the outbound process. Let's begin with an existing sales order. Here we have an example where we're shipping that same item we just received, and we're shipping it out to MaxiTech. We need 30 cases of that. Again, same warehouse. So here we'll right click, we'll do the SAP generate pick list function. This goes ahead and creates our pick list number 8. And at this point, we're good to go. It's recommended a bin, it's released the pick list, and we can now pick this up on the gun. So we come over to our device, still logged in as Sam. Sam has the ability to pick, so we'll select that option here. And we can hit reload to see all the available pick lists on our system. And pick list number 8, the same one we just created on the SAP screen. We'll go ahead and pick that. And now it's going to ask us which line we want to pick. And we're going to select the only line on the pick list. Now he's going to ask us to scan the bin. So we walk over to bin A1, S1, L1, and we scan the barcode on that bin. Next, he's going to ask us to confirm the batch. So we go ahead and scan the batch that's on the box in that bin, and it will indicate the number of cases that we need. We released a pick list for 30, but we're going to short ship this, so we're going to ship only 5. And we're going to go ahead and post that. And at this point now, we've indicated to the system that we've picked 5 of the 30 cases. We could go back and do more picking, maybe from a different bin, different lot, or we could go and deliver this directly. This is creating your SAP Business One delivery document. Successfully posted to delivery, which it created in real time. So now if I refresh the pick list in SAP, that's a closed document. And if I refresh the sales order, my open quantity is also going to adjust. So now we go ahead and go into the relationship map, and you can see the newly created delivery. Double click on that. And of course, this is the shipping document showing how we reduced the quantity on hand by 5 cases, or the equivalent in eaches. Our bin locations where we pulled this material out of, all supplied by scan, as well as our batch detail. If we wanted to drill into that, it's the exact same level of information we showed on the inbound side. One thing that we haven't yet done is address the question of packing. So at this point, we've picked the goods and we've created the delivery, but there are no packages for this shipment. Sam is going to assume the role of the packer. He enters the delivery, selects the item he wants to deliver, and then enters package number 1 as the first package that we're going to put items into. We scan our first item that goes into that box, and in this case, we'll indicate the quantity is 2 for that item. And at that point, we're going to say that package is done. The system saves that package information. And now as prompting us for the next package number, we'll say now we're starting box number 2. What item do we want to put into box number 2? We'll put the remaining units into box 2. And at this point, that second package is done. So on the delivery, we'll refresh the delivery, right click, go into our packing slip data, and the system has in real time updated the package data within that delivery. So here's our 2 units in package 1, and in package 2 is the remaining 3 units. This is vital for any organization that ships goods where they do pick pack and they need to keep track of the contents of all of their packed cartons. The final thing we want to talk about in the world of Produmex Scan is just a little bit of the security model. So to do that, we're going to go into the SAP Employee Master Data, standard SAP screen. We're going to put in the name of our employee. Here's Sam. This is the same user we were using all along. Now there's one little difference. We went ahead and added a new tab here called Scan using the B1 usability package. If you have the usability package, you can do this. If you don't have the usability package, you can go ahead and maintain this data using the user-defined fields panel in SAP. Either way is perfectly fine. So in this case, we've set up Sam as the name of the user with their password and indicated the various things that he can and can't do with his user session. And so we could go ahead and make security changes here if that were appropriate, or we could go and look at a different user who has full access. And so let's bring the example of our scanner back up. These are the functions that Sam has access to. If we log out of Sam, log in as George, George has a lot more options here. George has 2 different goods receipt PO options, all the production options, an array of outbound options, various inventory options, etc. Whereas our friend Sam has his options limited because the system administrator said we're going to give him access to only certain things. The advantage that Produmex Scan gives you in this case is that you can go ahead and have complete control over who has access to what on the Scan handheld devices. So with that, I'd like to thank you for attending our introduction to Produmex Scan. We look forward to the chance to share more information on Scan with you, and please contact your partner to get additional information.